organizers for making all the efforts to make MEU Symposium possible. And I really hope that our panel will raise to the standards that our colleagues already set in the previous conferences. I'm Georgina Cretu, and I will moderate the panel today. MEUs of our times, the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. I'm a member of Beta Europe and I'm part of the think tank team. I would like to say about myself that I'm genuinely passionate about the EU, and therefore I engage in several projects like this one, of course, and I currently work at the European Parliament in the heart of Europe. And I'm more than happy to see, to analyze, and why not to compare the real EP with what is happening in the MEU's EP. So for me, MEUs are a love story, literally and figuratively at the same time. And I'm really curious to see how these stories have been affected by the pandemic. And that's why I have with me today the people that managed to take up the challenge and deliver fantastic MEUs during this time. That being said, many thanks to everyone for joining this event. I wholeheartedly hope that this panel will be an informative one and the takeaways will be useful to implement for you and your team, of course, in the future MEUs or even other projects that you might organize. And before I move to the introductions of the speakers, I would like to inform all of you that this meeting is recorded. We will have a Q&A session at the end. Yet, if you have questions or even comments, please don't hesitate to write them in the chat, as we will also take questions from you during the discussions. Regarding the questions, please, and the comments as well, please keep them short and clear and name the speaker you address the question to. If you don't have a speaker in mind, please also mention that so that I know who will take the floor next. And finally, the last round of thanking will go to our speakers for taking their time to be here. And of course, to share a little bit of their sustained efforts to put together a professional and coherent MEU during these peculiar times. Therefore, I want to warmly congratulate every team who dared to change the setting and to face the challenges of organizing MEUs in these tough times. So Bianca, Yogam, Finlay, Velyiana, and Lucia, chapeau. And of course, all the teams behind the hard work you put together in order to have deliverables for MEU attendees. No further additions from my side. Lucia, you have the floor for the brief introduction.
So, hi everyone. My name is Lucia. I'm from Slovakia, and we organized the first MEU in Bratislava, Slovakia, which happened to be also the first online MEU we managed to organize. Basically, our MEU was sort of unique also in a way that it was meant to be for participants from V4 countries, meaning Slovakia, Czech Republic, Hungary, and Poland, because we received funds from the International Visegrad Fund, which concentrates on this region and the challenges it is facing. So basically, we had two topics. So one was climate change and the European Green Deal, and another one was disinformation, which are like serious issues our region is facing and also having problems with. Also, apart from the very simulation, we focus on having webinars, panel discussions, and skills workshops to kind of sort of make the experience more rich and to compensate for the lack of face-to-face experience the participants had. So I would say it was also more educational than like experiential, if that's the word. So yeah, basically that's briefly about MEU Bratislava 2020.
Thank you very much, Lucia. We will get into the details of the MEU you represent soon. Now I will give the floor to Velyiana.
Hello,
for the
everybody.
introduction. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Velyiana Georgieva. I'm from Bulgaria, and I'm the president of MEU Blagoevgrad. We are on a conference that is held by the European Society Club at my university, American University in Bulgaria. It is held every year. It is the first MEU that we have ever had in Bulgaria. Not this one, but our conference. And this year we held it online. So I'm here to tell you about our experience with it.
Thank you very much, Velyiana. We will move now to Finlay.
Hey everyone, I'm Finlay. I'm from Glasgow and I'm currently doing my undergraduate degree in History, Politics and International Relations. Within the MEU world, I'm the DDG and Head of Content for MEU Scotland. And just last month, we simulated the Council of the European Union online. The two topics we discussed were Creative Europe and the Asylum and Migration Management Regulation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dear participants, I would ask you to mute yourself in order to have a smooth conversation here and not to have a lot of background noise. Thank you very much for understanding. Now we move to Yogam. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you. And I'm Yogam. I'm from Singapore originally, but I'm currently based in Greece. I'm doing my PhD here. And regarding MEUs, what I'm representing today would be Warsaw Athens MEU. And this MEU did not actually exist before because we were Warsaw MEU and Athens MEU. So for this year, we decided to have a collaboration between two MEUs in the online setting, and that's how this MEU was born. I will talk more about it later, but this is just a brief introduction.
Thank you very much, Yogam. Now, last but not the least, Bianca may be the one with whom I should have started with since it was in March 2020. Bianca, you have the floor.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bianca. I'm from Romania and I'm studying law. I was this year head of logistics at MEU Iași 2020. What I can say about MEU Iași is that it started in 2017 and we are working on the 5th edition next year. Basically, what is quite funny and we try to do every time, we try to be very serious and we make sure that our topics are really realistic and very debatable, so the participants can have fun while being really responsible and learning about EU politics. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's indeed the purpose of every MEU organizing team. So in normal times, or everyone who organizes an MEU or an event near the complexity of an MEU knows how demanding an MEU can be. From logistics with the most elegant and most fancy venues for the participants to the content, as Bianca said, with catchy topics ready to be debated or even abandoned, why not? And finally to socials with the spicy gossip and curious couple combination. In other words, MEU is complicated to organize, but this is not business as usual. I think that the motto of each team we have here today was improvise, adapt, and overcome. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that you put a lot of effort to organize this MEU in the past couple of months. Of course, someone might say that we don't have now accommodations or venues or food to take care anymore, but we have other obstacles. And I would like to invite our speakers to walk the talk and to give an overview of the challenges they faced. Now, I have to say that attending MEU Iași myself in March, right when the lockdown was announced and started, it was quite a thrill. The COVID crisis hit Romania right in the middle of MEU Iași 2020. How was it for you, Bianca, as an organizer? How did you adapt to this situation? Please tell us a bit more about this, because you faced the very first challenges.
Thank you for explaining a little bit. What can I say? It was really interesting, to say the least. It was difficult, but we managed somehow. Firstly, we had a lot of challenges because right before the MEU started, it was announced that the lockdown is going to take soon and it's going to be very difficult. So we had to make a lot of changes, which were cutting off all the social events. We had to take a lot of safety measurements. We had to take an authorization from the authorities to make sure that we are okay to debate there. We had to talk with the university. It was extremely hard for the organizing team, to say the least. More details I can explain, but it was extremely hard because we had to improvise a lot with all of the things, but the participants didn't like, they enjoyed the debate because we made sure to make a safe environment, a safe bubble. We informed that everything is quite troublesome. The pandemic was just taking place in Romania, but we managed to do it.
Indeed, I can confirm that it was troublesome, and you did everything possible to ensure the safety of the participants. But I should ask you, in as a follow-up, what kind of sanitary measures did you take for the safety of the participants? And you also said that you had to interact with local authorities from the university where the event took place. But I guess you went further and you went to the sanitary authorities. How was this communication? Was it smooth, or was it a bit more complicated than expected?
The authorities in Romania, basically in Iași, were very, very encouraging. And we had our DDG talk with them on the phone and in person every day, making sure that everything is right. The measurements we took were really like for the social distancing. We tried to make everything clean. We disinfected everything. We were having hand sanitizer everywhere. We informed participants that they need to wash their hands, be clean. And also we tried to do the social distancing. Basically, it was quite measurements we are taking right now in the pandemic, but as exactly at the point it started. And with the authorities, we had to make a document, something that is called, I don't remember exactly how it is called, but we had to go at the authorities that control the city to inform us that we have participants in a building and we have their approval to continue with the event. It was smoothly, I guess, because the authorities did everything to ensure us that we are safe, and they encouraged us and support us to everything that we did then.
It seems that you have been quite proactive, and you did everything possible to make sure that MEU in its new form it's still taking place for the participants. Well, after MEU Iași, the lockdown came all over Europe, and business as usual was not the rule anymore. Our lives, as we knew them, has changed. And MEU Online has been a Beta Europe project a long time ago, which never saw realization, and now became relevant once again. And the ideas on how to make it a reality soon appeared, of course. And this question is for all of you then. Can you, for the rest of my speakers today, can you tell us what was your initial idea on how to deliver such a concept? What made you believe that you can organize it and make it a reality? And the first one to set precedent was MEU Bratislava, as you heard before, with a full parliament and council, bringing together around 80 people. This is amazing. Lucia, you have organized the first MEU Online, and you had many weeks of debate. I have to say that sometimes it's difficult to keep the participants sharp, especially during the last day of face-to-face MEU. How was to organize this event over so many weekends and still keep the participants attending and engaging? Would there be something you think you should change in the future?
Yeah, so yeah, that was one of the big challenges because some participants dropped out, which we understood because, well, since it's online, it cannot be over, I don't know, 5 days, like nonstop, because it's just like impossible. So we spread the conference to September weekends and then a few days for extra activities. And we try to sort of make the program as varied as possible so that it wouldn't be like monotone, meaning that we try to have a workshop, then a debate, then a social activity, then a debate, so that the participants wouldn't just spend like 5 hours straight debating. I would say that with online MEUs, it is really true that like the social aspect suffers. You cannot go out even in the evening for drinks. You cannot go dancing, have a city tour or anything like that. So we try to compensate that with like online pub quiz or like online sort of socials, but it wasn't it wasn't the same. So basically, we knew this right from the beginning that, okay, like this might be an issue. So we tried to sort of shift the narrative and make it like, okay, this is gonna be an educational professional event. And we sort of like led the conference in this way, like inviting Oxford professors, MEPs, politicians to sort of keep participants interested and be like, okay, this is totally worth sitting 3 hours in front of a computer. So that's how we sort of managed it.
And what was the feedback of the participants after so many days?
Yeah, I would say they enjoyed it. Like we had a feedback form and there was very positive feedback on like the webinars and workshops. All of them said it was intense, but that they like learned a lot. And of course, like as anticipated, they stressed that they had lack of social activities and like fun activities, which was very like hard to organize online. So like if anyone has any ideas how to make like amazing social events online, like I would like to hear that, because that was like one of the things they sort of didn't like. Yeah, but we didn't really know like how to make it possible and make it like really an experience where you make friends over beer and stuff like that.
Thank you very much, Lucia. Indeed, social is a tough topic when organizing on online MEU, but we will come back to this question in the Q&A session, if that's fine with you as well. So we will move forward to a very daring and ambitious project, 2 MEU at the same time. I think this is the dream of every MEU enthusiast or MEU geek, because I consider myself an MEU geek. So that would have been a dream of mine when I was still attending real life MEUs, to be at the same place at the same time. So somehow this was the aim of Warsaw Athens MEUs, an initiative of MEU Warsaw, of course, and MEU Athens. At first, the organizers decided to fight the pandemic restrictions very bravely and announced that the event will take place in both Athens and Warsaw at the same time. Decisions are hard to make, especially in these times of pandemic. And at the very last minute, you decided to organize Warsaw Warsaw Athens MEU online. How did you reach this decision, Yogam, first of all, and how did the participants receive this news?
Well, the thing I would say is that the reason why we wanted to do it in these two cities is because we were in constant contact with the authorities. So it was, of course, on the advice of the respective authorities, including the health ministry, as well as in contact with all the people that we should be contacting for both sides. And it got the clearance even up to that point. But we realized that, okay, maybe it might be a bit more accessible for participants. And we also took into account the safety of some of our team members and the participants. So in that aspect, we decided to shift it online. And that was the basis of this reason. And of course, it's not easy to take this. But the thing is that we told participants we were very swift in the reimbursement, everything. So I don't think there was any problems. And logistically, we also told ourselves that we will not book anything until the very last minute. And we already told the hostel and the venue and everything. So everybody was under a proper cooperation and understanding, I would say. So it did not actually cause us any setbacks. So I would definitely credit the management of both MEUs and how well it was planned, so that we did not incur any form of financial losses, and participants still turned up. So that was really nice.
Oh, that's very insightful indeed. And how many participants did you have, and how did they face the digital problems? Let's put it like this, because even in the European Parliament, there are many technicians instructing the MEPs to press the speaking button or to ask them to repeat when the connection is bad. So this is broadcast and everyone can see the bloopers, if I can say so. And it's not up to us to keep the connection stable. And I imagine that as youngsters, we are more familiar with the digital buttons. Yet we seem to encounter, hopefully not at this panel, some digital problems. How did you face them? How did you manage them?
Well, for your first question regarding the participants, we had about, give or take, about 50 in total, in council and parliament and together, of course. And regarding the technical problems, this is something that we cannot avoid in online MEUs. Unfortunately, you could have the best stable connection, but maybe your laptop decides to crash. Or maybe you have stable Wi-Fi all that time, but on that day, it's gonna be really bad. So I think it gave a lot of platform for the organizers and the chairs to also adapt and be a bit more patient. So the thing is that if someone has to repeat themselves, of course you tell them that it's we try to do so, and please, don't really be disgruntled that we're asking you to repeat yourself, because in person MEUs in real life, they might be a little bit unwilling to repeat themselves sometimes because you don't really want to always. But online, I don't think people really had that problem. I think the general consensus was that we understand that technical difficulties do exist, so everybody was more tolerant across the board.
It's indeed very important to be resilient in these tough times, and I'm happy to hear that the participants were also happy to cooperate. Thank you very much, Yogam, for your insight. So I will move now forward to a very famous MEU Scotland. Moving it into online, I guess it was quite challenging. And Finlay, can you tell us what did you do differently? How do you see it compared to other experience? And maybe you can highlight a little bit what you think MEU Scotland did better.
Doing better, I wouldn't really define it as doing better. I'd say do differently. In the online format, there's no real traditional standard, no golden standard at play here. So everyone that you have in the panel has done something in an own unique way that has its advantages and disadvantages. With MEU Scotland, we were a new management board that came in February. So this was our first event that we were organizing. And a lot of our kind of conversation at the start was whether we should do it. I think we spent a lot of time trying to go through the pros and cons of an online event. And it was quite a worry, and I'm sure every organizer also had that same worry anyway. The main the first roadblock that we kind of saw and then had to overcome was that we found a lot of people who were wanting to be organizers weren't really willing to apply to organize an online MEU. To be fair, that's really understandable. we're stuck in the middle of a pandemic, and then this is a lot of work to take on in the middle of that, on top of a lot of other stress. And I'll again reiterate, online MEUs are still a complete unknown. There's only a handful of us that have done them. So in that case, we did have to try and scramble and see who we could find. And in the end, I think we found the best people that we could, and they're great, and we're going to carry on with them through to the next MEU. On the flip side, we found a lot of participants who were willing. While we were only simulating the council, so we had like 27 kind of slots, 25 as well, because we had our chairs take on the role of ministers. And we were just inundated with people willing to participate. So it's something that I think is quite positive going forward for other people that might want to do an online MEU. I think the main, like another worry for us was that we were trying to find the best way to keep their attention, especially for that was my job through content as well. And we were trying to educate them on a kind of through multiple ways as well. And I think our topics did that very well. And I think everyone here found topics that they not only found to be very interesting, but thought could garner a lot of attention, a lot of debate. And a kind of major roadblock on the side of content for me was trying to decide on a platform. I think we spent about 4 months trying to figure out exactly and trying to take out all the bad parts of multiple platforms. I think we went through like 3 or 4 different mock debates trying to figure out what exactly to do. And I believe in the end we went with Discord and Zoom for multiple reasons that I'll explain in later questions. And I don't believe anyone on this panel did something similar. So yeah, there's no real golden standards, so we can't really compare any other MEU right now.
Thank you very much. It's indeed once more very insightful. And do you believe that MEU online it's sustainable for the future? Would you do it again?
I would happily do it again. I think it has many uses. I think it's not the new format. I think it is an alternative format. I believe that going forward, MEUs and beta branches can use the online format to kind of reach out to local participants, participants that are maybe less able to kind of take the week out and go to an in-person MEU as well. We can still have like the main in-person MEU because they are fantastic. I wouldn't trade that for the world, to be honest with you. But for the sake of education and for our own goals as beta, online MEUs have a great place and they should be encouraged and used by everyone.
Indeed, we should do that in the future. Now we will move forward to Velyiana from MEU Blagoevgrad. She has for us a presentation. With no further addition, please, Velyiana, tell us a little bit about MEU Blagoevgrad and how did you manage the imminent issues that rose from organizing an online MEU?
Should I start with the presentation now or should I first answer the question?
You can go with the presentation and then I can repeat the question for you.
Okay, Mariella is my vice president. We organized the MEU together. So she's going to be sharing her screen with our presentation. So I will wait for her to start.
Yes, I'm waiting actually for giving me rights to share. Yeah, okay. Thank you. Yeah. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Great.
Okay, so MEU Blagoevgrad is a university organized simulation. It is in Blagoevgrad, a university town in Bulgaria, close to Sofia. We organize it every year since 2015. And now we're going to tell you how it went and what we got out of it, of the online simulation we did. We simulated only the European Council because we thought that we are maybe still not ready to move on with the parliament online because our whole team except the board had no experience with organizing MEUs before. That's why we decided to start it slow this year. So the platforms that we used were Zoom. It was probably the most convenient for the debates. A WXMUN, that was for the speeches, for the speakers list, for the voting. We used Facebook and Instagram for communication, for Gossip Box, for page with the news from the simulation, and the council voting calculator for the votes of the council.
Like any other event, our event also has disadvantages and advantages. I will present the advantages, and the first one that we considered is that our online event was like more accessible because here the distance was not barrier. This year we had a participant for more distant places. And for example, when the conference is on ground, there are some participants who need visas to enter the country, which is not a problem for this kind of online events. The second advantage for such an event is that the organization is cheaper. This includes cutting back the costs like hosting an online simulations, save on expenditure because our organization did not have to pay travel and accommodation costs for all of the participants. The next one is that all of the participants, they can just participate from home, which means that they don't have to spend so much time traveling, which saves their time. And the last one, but not the least, is that it's easier on the logistics. For our event, we didn't spend much time for preparing folders with the materials, setting up the conference halls, as well as organizing the social night, because we are doing it in a restaurant, and this year it was much easier with doing it online.
So disadvantages, as it was mentioned several times before, it's harder to establish connections with people. Yes, there's still people who stayed friends after our event and had fun, but it was so much harder for them to become closer because they cannot go to lunch together and sit together. They cannot have a break together. I mean, there were still some people who stayed on the Zoom call and were speaking together while we were in breaks or while we were having lunch, but it's definitely not the same as having social nights. It's not that engaging. Even though we are debating, there are some people who would just stop their camera, and you can do nothing about that. You can just say, put your camera on, and they would just not do it. So it's very much easier for people to slack, and that should be taken into account. Maybe just for the people who are not turning their camera on and who are not participating, not give them participation certificates because they did not actually participate, is not as memorable because what I have remembered from all the MEUs I went to that were like on ground, I remember my trip to there. I remember uh, whole the whole atmosphere, the city, the new people I met, the food I tried. Not only the debates, they of course the most crucial part of simulation, but it's definitely not as memorable as, for example, let's say going to Blagoevgrad from the Czech Republic. And also, we depend on everybody's internet connection. We had a lobbyist who was from Palestine, and all of a sudden, they just decided to stop the internet in all of Palestine, so she couldn't participate. And we had a lot of times in which people would not have good connection, and they could not participate.
Our plans for the future include two upcoming events in 2021. The first one will be MEU Blagoevgrad 2021, and it will be online due to the measures and restrictions on our campus at the American University in Bulgaria. And it will happen in the end of March, while the second one will be on ground, and it will be in the fall of 2021. And we're like hoping that we'll have it on ground this time.
Thank you so much. And that was our presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your very comprehensive presentation. Indeed, it touches upon many of the topics we want to discuss this afternoon. But I have a question for both of you. Given the nature of the council, which in certain situations require face-to-face negotiations, I mean, in order to reach the consensus, how did you transpose this institution into digital? What are the advantages and disadvantages of an online council, not MEU? Okay, so take note that I'm referring precisely to the council and not the entire MEU.
Yes, well, basically, I remember they had very heated discussions in the breaks. They were just staying on the Zoom call, and that's how they were trying to reach some consensus, and maybe through chats or calls outside of the council. But it definitely was a lot harder because for the European Council, they have to write a resolution at the end, and it wasn't as easy as it would be in a normal situation in which they can have like informal discussion and they can gather in groups. But for example, our informal discussion was in front of everybody, so that made it harder. As advantage, it's very hard to find an advantage into making European Council online, except for I really cannot think of advantages in that case. It was hard. It was hard to reach a final decision on the resolution. It was hard to do the voting because some people would say, I will vote against, but they wouldn't have discussed the resolution enough with the rest of the members. So it was very tough.
I don't think that there should be necessarily an advantage to have an online MEU, but if any of you have found one, please do share with us today because we are moving right now into the Q&A session. And until our participants will loosen up and will pop up some questions in the chat, or just raise the hand so that you can address the question yourself. I have some questions for our speakers once again. We have talked about the socials. So this is a very important part of the MEU, and sometimes it's very difficult in real life, it's very difficult to find a balance between the people who come to MEUs, particularly for the socials, and they are less prepared for the academic debate. Whereas on the other side, there are the other participants who come very, very well prepared, and they come with lots of amendments. I remember to my second MEU, which I attended, there was someone with 80 amendments to one single regulation. So how can we strike the balance between these two important aspects of the MEU? Would COVID-19 pandemic affect this? Will help us reinvent the socials in real life, or would help us reinvent the social concept of an MEU online? So I give the floor to Finlay. Yes, go.
If I first may speak on the advantages of an online MEU, there are plenty. It's just need to be thought about quite thoroughly. First, I think it's quite obvious. The cost of an online MEU is minuscule. I can tell you for a fact that for MEU Scotland, we got 25 participants, socials, what you'd call a venue, I guess. We had platforms, and we didn't actually spend a penny. Like we spent nothing. It was all just our time, and anyway, it's a hobby for all of us. So it was literally just we enjoyed it and we spent nothing, and we managed to achieve our goals of educating a bunch of Scottish and a bunch of Europeans on the kind of functions of the European Union. Furthermore, from a content side, it makes it a lot more accessible for people as well. All you essentially need to get into an online MEU is an internet connection and a laptop that kind of functions, I guess. You don't even need a camera. You just need to be present at that point. It makes it a lot more available for every kind of student, every kind of person outside of that as well, everyone that we've been wanting to reach and trying to reach and aiming to reach as well. And it just makes it a lot easier for them to go through it. They don't have to buy a plane ticket, they don't have to pay for the kind of acceptance fee, they don't have to pay for accommodation, food's just there regularly. And then they can also go about like the regular day after that. And there's so many advantages to it from that perspective. And then to perhaps speak on socials, if I may. I recognize there are a lot of difficulties when going forward with socials as the organizing team of everyone here, of every kind of online MEU, I'm sure we know that. There's kind of like, there's less commitment exactly from the participants because they're, again, like in their own life, they can turn off their laptop and just go to the gym, go to the shops, do like their university work. They are not there geographically and they are not then isolated socially if they don't go to a social and in-person one. So they can do what they want. It's up to them as well. And we can't force them. We can't reach through the screen and grab them to come. So it's just something that as organizers, we have to accept and try and work around. But I can speak on the quality of at least our socials for Scotland. I think what we tried to do and what we kind of successfully did as well was try to kind of create a cultural exchange for our European participants when kind of interacting with Scottish people. So our socials kind of went along the lines of, I think our first one and one that we all really enjoyed was having an award-winning Scottish folk singer spend a few hours singing for us. And we then had a Scottish Gaelic choir as well teach us some Gaelic songs. And we also had that for a icebreaker at the start of the day. We had some poetry readings as well as some people reading some old Scottish poetry to us as well. And seeing as the end of our conference fell on Halloween, we had a Halloween quiz night and a games night as well, which is something you can quite happily do across Discord and across the internet. And in terms of like trying to reach them socially, we also had a few kind of icebreakers where I think we just kind of sat down one day, 15 minutes before, had nothing planned. And what we just did, we sat them all down, broke them up into breakout rooms and just talked to them, asked them how they were doing, asked them how they were feeling, kind of checked up on their mental health as participants, which is something that MEUs in general don't do enough. They don't prioritize mental health of their participants, nor the mental health of their organizing team. And I think going forward, that's something that we all need to do because it's a lot of stress and a lot of work. I think Vienna and Yash this year also showed that because undoubtedly that was stressful for both organizing teams. And I think going forward, we need to recognize that, take that as a lesson out of COVID, and then since just prioritize mental health across the board. And yeah, that's me. Sorry.
Thank you very much. This is a very useful exchange of good practices. So you put all for us on the table something very, very useful, and I hope this is already informative for our participants. Maybe Bianca can tell us a little bit more about how they changed the socials because it was struggling, and maybe with a little bit of focus on the mental health of the organizing team, because this should be a priority in the times of pandemic for us.
Oh, well, I was thinking right now about what you asked, to what we're going to do with the participants that are just there for the fun, not for engaging in the debate. Actually, in Yash, we tried to bring the fun into the debate by having by having the PR team doing a lot of fun activities, and we had the debate be a little bit more fun. Regarding the mental health of the organizers, it was quite hard because it was very stressful then. What we did was just trying to be as friends. We were very acknowledging the fact that it is really hard. We gave them time. We told them that we are going to be safe, that is going to be okay. So we were very understanding, and we were understanding if they didn't want to participate anymore in the organizing team. We tried to convince them, but we were a little bit like we were little team, because it was hard during the pandemic to organize a lot of people. So yeah.
So it seems that at MEU, yes, you really showed resilience, and you tried to catch up with the new changes quite fast. And this should be something we should really appreciate and to implement at every project. So I will move forward with my guests today, and I will ask Yogam to tell us a little bit more about the socials at Warsaw Athens MEU.
I think for the socials at Warsaw Athens MEU, we were able to bring both cultures, from the Greek culture as well as the Polish culture, and have a little bit of social. We had a bit of a cooking session, which I would also say is an advantage of having an online MEU, because we possibly could not have this collaboration and crossover so-called episode. And I definitely think it's one of the many, many advantages that we could have had as an online MEU. And in that aspect, we also could also do a somewhat of like a pub quiz kind of thing. And it's nice because you can actually get participants participate from the comfort of their homes. And that is nice because in a real life situation, maybe not everybody's as willing to be out there and open. So it definitely gives participants who may not be comfortable in real life situations to kind of participate, because behind the screen, I hear from a lot of our participants that they felt a little bit more comfortable, especially if it's their first time, which I definitely see as an advantage also. So in that aspect, our socials were a little bit trying to tap into what we usually do at regular MEUs, which is like a pub quiz, but also try to bring both cultures together. And we had a little bit of a cooking session, which was a bit more homey, I would say.
That's very nice. I hope that your participants had good pies or whatever they cooked for themselves and enjoyed with the rest of the participants. Thank you very much, Yogam. I see that Ivo has raised his hand. If you have a question, feel free to take the floor.
I'm really curious now. I heard Yogam talk about the cooking session. Could you, I don't know, like detail it more? Like, how did it work? I'm curious.
If I could answer. So basically what happened was we had a social day itself. So half of it was we were trying to make a Greek salad kind of situation, and the other half was to make a Polish pierogi. So we had the directorates of both sides, and we had some team members in Athens as well. So it was kind of interactive on both sides. It was kind of like a cook-along session. Might have been a bit chaotic, I will have to admit, but that's also part of the fun of it. So they did actually get to see how you make whatever you want to make from the side of Greece and Warsaw.
That's actually a spectacular idea. It's chaotic. Yeah, like good luck trying to establish some type of order in that scenario, but it's definitely something that it's memorable. Like whoever participated in that, like they're never gonna forget that. It's really cool.
I would say it was really fun, but also gives participants the opportunity to see that we are not just, hey, your chairs and your MEPs or your ministers. It kind of tried to push the social aspect that is possibly missing in online simulation. So we tried to give that to them. So I hope they appreciated the chaos also, but I think it was definitely memorable.
I think it was quite difficult and challenging to do the Polish pierogi. I'm not brave enough to cook them, even though I like cooking. Thank you very much for this insight. And I think that one day full of socials is very good and very relaxing for the participants. I think this will help wind up also the team and also the participants. So kudos to you for coming up with this interesting idea. So right now I will move forward, also related to the topic of the socials, to Velyiana. how did you reinvent this important type of MEU in Blagoevgrad?
So we had one social night because our MEU was only 3 days long. And the social night was basically, first we had a bingo. And we asked one day before that for our participants to fill out a form with interesting facts about them. And then we made a bingo card with each of those facts. And we did breakout rooms with 2 to 3 people where they had a minute and a half or 2 minutes to guess which fact is to which person. For example, let's say I love watermelon, and the person in front of me has to guess which one is it, and if they guess correctly, they get a point. And the ones who won, luckily, were based in Sofia because our award was tickets for the Museum of Illusions in Sofia. It was sponsored by them. Then after that, we had a Kahoot quiz with it's basically pop quiz. It had questions from all kinds of spheres, and we finished with Among Us. We played Among Us at the end with the people that left because a lot of people left because it was a pretty long social night.
Thank you very much. And now I will move lastly to Lucia to tell us a bit the her MEU social experience, and if I would like to ask you if you think that our exchange of views right now was useful to implement in a future online MEU.
Yeah, definitely it was useful. Like the cooking session is just like amazing, and it's something like none of us could like think of, because first when we were intending to make MEU face to face, we were like, okay, we could do city tour, go to embassies or something like that. So this is something just like none of us could come up with. So like I think it was definitely very useful.
So I will move to another type of questions right now, since I see none from our participants and we still have some time to spare. What do you mean when you say that MEU was a success for yourself? Share us a little bit about the strong points you had. How was it to establish the partnership? So, for example, with stakeholders, I think this is a whole different scenario in the pandemic. And I will give the floor to Bianca.
For us, it was easier because the pandemic hit us right in the MEU. So the let's say the contracts with the partners were already there. What it was hard was maintaining the location, the venue, because they were really, let's say, they were encouraging us, but they are really afraid of what might happen. But seeing us doing all the sanitary measures was really fun. Was really encouraging to let us be there. What can I say about strong points and what made MEU Yash successful? Was basically really understanding participants. They were really great and understanding the seriousness of the situation. A really strong organizing team being there doing everything they possibly could do in that situation. And the fact that it was really kept under control. Nobody was getting sick. Everything was fine. And that was really nerve-wracking. And that made MEU Yash successful this year.
Thank you very much. Lucia, you may take the floor for the same question.
Could you repeat the question again?
My question was, why do you think, what aspect of MEU was successful for yourself, and how was to establish partnership with the stakeholders during these peculiar times?
So I would think it was kind of easier to partner with different people or institutions, and it's something that made the MEU more successful because we contacted Oxford professors, MEPs, and other interesting guests, and it would be so hard for them to come actually to Bratislava, to travel there. I would say like they would refuse us because they would have to travel, we would have to compensate travel costs, and well, probably they wouldn't have time. And like this, they just opened up their laptop and spent like 1 hour teaching a workshop or attending a panel discussion. So I would say because it was online, we managed to have very interesting guests, which gave a lot to the participants and which made the MEU much more professional and educational. So I would say that this is one of the strong aspects which can make MEU sustainable, maybe even better on this front, because not everyone like MEU Strasbourg can have like the fanciness of EU institutions or like interesting guests attend. So I would say like that, like writing someone, oh, can you please like do a 1 hour workshop for us, is much easier, and it's more likely that they will say yes to this proposal.
That's indeed a very strong point of an online MEU. I will move forward now to Yogam. Tell us a little bit how was for you to establish the partnerships and what was actually a success in Warsaw Athens MEU.
I mean, I would try to go a little bit out of the stakeholder sphere itself, because I think Warsaw Athens itself was formed based on partnership between two MEUs. And apart from that, I would also say that we had participants from MEU Bratislava that happened right before, and that's because it was promoted during the MEU. We also had collaboration with MEU Scotland, and we had participants from these two MEUs. So I think that partnership across MEUs and beta branches was really important to the success of the MEU itself. So I would definitely say the network and how close the network is and the willingness to share best practices is definitely one of the key successes behind Warsaw Athens MEU.
Thank you very much. That's indeed very insightful. Finlay, what can you tell us about the partnerships? How did they go? And what do you think is successful at MEU Scotland?
I'm probably going to have a similar point to make to as Yogam. She kind of mentioned that we were in partnership between Warsaw and Athens as well. We didn't really have any kind of stakeholders in the kind of sense that other people have commented on. All of our, like, we don't have any needs for funding or any needs for a venue or anything like that. So a lot of our collaboration came with other MEUs on kind of what's been working for them. One of our big helps as well, and someone who helped establish kind of one of the main parts of our platform, was Philip Dorick from MEU Mainz. MEU Mainz was an online MEU that took place a few months prior to the kind of ones that you have in front of you. And Yogam as well, between Warsaw and Athens, we were constantly in touch, looking at our participant numbers as well, and to see if we could help one another. And yeah, I'm forgetting something, but that's all I can say right now.
You can come back when you remember, of course. And I'm giving now the floor to Velyiana.
Hi. So basically, we had speakers on the first day. We had MEU veterans, if I can call them like that, Claudio Teixeira and Nick Majarov, who spoke on the opening of an opening ceremony. We also had the first organizer of MEU Blagoevgrad, Peter Georgiev, who spoke, and we had professor of European Studies in our university. They spoke on the opening ceremony. Our other partnerships were with the European Commission in Bulgaria, which we have every year. So basically, it was nothing new. They just give us amount of money that we have to spend by a certain date. And we also had a very big budget from our university. And that's why we also had awards for best delegates. But the thing about working with university is that we have to wait after the conference for a long time for the university to finish with all of the bureaucracy and actually give us the money for the awards for the participants. Basically, that was it. It was not very hard. We also had the Museum of the Illusions in Sofia. They gave us tickets, and that was basically it. It was pretty easy to fund, if we may say, an online MEU.
Thank you, Velyiana. I noticed that the opinions on this regard are parted. Some of the organizing teams would go to the inside network and establish partnerships among MEUs. Some other organizing teams would go further, would go on a pan-European level. And I would like to come back a little bit to Lucia to ask about the partnerships with the Oxford University. And maybe you can elaborate a little bit more about the Visegrad Fund as well.
So basically, I would say like International Visegrad Fund is one option for V4 countries apart from Erasmus grant to get like a lot of money. And basically, the partnerships with MEPs and Oxford professors, they were not like official for the sake of the grant, but they sort of happened randomly because our friends knew someone at Oxford University. They knew MEPs. So it was sort of, we used the power of like informal networks to get the guests. But what we achieved to do is that we partnered with Comenius University in Bratislava, which promised our participants to get extra credits for attendance. So I would say that is one option as well, to sort of collaborate with universities, like to get extra credits, because MEUs are an educational experience. And I would say that not all countries have amazing education systems, such as in the UK. So I would say that participants can actually learn a lot, especially if they're from Central and East European countries from MEUs, and that it should be also rewarded on the academic level. And yeah, I would say that because our participants were beginners in the first place and they came from this like less developed region than like the rest of the like EU, they could like take a lot from it and sort of experience how education should look like to develop critical thinking and analytical skills. So I would say that, yeah, this made the partnerships and also the benefits we got from the grant like really amazing.
That's extremely interesting. I noted down what you said, because if I may organize another event, I will take advantage of the knowledge I know right now. And I strongly advise other MEU organizers to do the same in case they have to organize again an online MEU. And right now I have a question from someone in our audience. And I will read it to be clear and not to have any personal interpretations from myself. So the question is as follows. How hard was for a first timer to participate in their first MEU in an online version? Or in your opinion, how hard can be for a first timer to participate in an online version? And the question is addressed to everyone. And unfortunately, Bianca, you cannot answer to this question, but we will have a separate answer for this. Sorry, a separate question for this. And I think Yogam can start with answering to this question. Thank you.
So for us, I would say that we had about 96% of new comers for MEUs. And the thing is that we also, apart from Lucia Krajcovicova, I think what was mentioned previously, I would say in the previous panel, I believe, right before ours. And it's also similar, I would say, just to bring up forth some of the knowledge from the other sessions in the symposium. We also did actually make some changes, like what I think was done at Yash, to the rules of procedure. We kind of want to make it more accessible to participants. So we had that, and we had a quick guide, and we try to break it down so that if you were a first timer, I think we can try and step into the shoes of that, because we have all been first timers at some point. We try to see if it makes sense to us. And so we decided to tackle it from the rules of procedure side. So this, I think, would actually definitely help participants, and I believe it did.
Finlay, you can go on, please.
Me, sorry?
Yes.
On the topic of first-time participants, right?
Yes, in an online MEU.
In online. So I think in the end, our participants were kind of split about 2/3 of them were first-time participants, and we were quite aware of that. So going in, like, all of our kind of content was aimed at them to try and make them as comfortable as we possibly could. And when we were kind of assessing the debate and looking at how it's progressing, we noticed that a lot of the first-time kind of MEU participants were dominating debate as well. We had a Minister of Malta who, for 4 days, ran debate in the council, which was quite wonderful to see. So I think there are definitely advantages to kind of not having a room full of people around you while you make a speech. It's only really the kind of like faces in a small corner of your laptop. And I think it does kind of allow first-time participants to just kind of speak their mind without any kind of blocking or any kind of outside influence on their mind. And it probably helps their kind of fear of public speaking in a massive amount.
Thank you very much. Lucia?
So I guess since most of our participants were first timers, like the level was quite like similar, which made it easier. But generally, like from my experience of attending MEUs, sometimes the proposals were just like too hard to understand, especially if you're young and like at first year of university. So this was something we wanted to tackle even before MEU was a plan. So we made preparatory webinars with like the professors who sort of introduced not only the proposal, but also the topic as well, and introduced like key strands of debates. Then since it was online, and we also used a lot of like technological advances, like we created our own sort of Moodle on the website, our participants could log in. So we prepared like a tech guide, participants brochure where everything was like explained. And then to make the experience easier, we used Slack for communication, and we created their different channels. And there was always someone like ready to answer questions. So there are a lot of questions either related to like the technical aspect or like the content aspect. So like they could write it in, and someone from organizing team could like readily answer the question. And I think that also the chairs did an amazing job, like encouraging participants to speak up and really like being like understanding and supportive. So I guess that that's also another thing, like being in the shoes of the chairs, and sort of you are sort of in the role of a teacher, like having to make sure that your participants get as much from it as possible. So I would say that a lot of like thanks go to the chairs and like legal advisors who in the end they were the ones who were there for the participants, and we were the ones just writing brochures no one maybe even read. So I would say it depends on the chairs and in our case, they did an amazing job.
That's a very comprehensive step forward into the digitalization of the MEU. Thank you very much for your answer. And I will go quickly to Velyiana, and then I will adjust the question for Bianca, of course.
So I think it honestly depends on the person who is a first timer, because some people will feel more comfortable because they're not in a room full of people, because they are at home, they're probably wearing their pajama like below. But some people will not feel comfortable to speak because they will not know the people they are speaking with so well. For example, let's say a first timer first day on ground, and you would be quiet, but then they will meet with the people in their council, let's say, and they will start speaking to them during the debate. But now this was like nearly impossible, so there was this issue for some people.
Indeed, it can be problematic for everyone. And Bianca, the last but not the least, how did you manage to integrate the newcomers in MEU Yash 2020? Because being stressful to organize, I think it was even more stressful for them to take the word or to take the floor in the debates.
Yes. It all started when, this was the fourth edition, so we have usually kind of half of the participants are the beginners. So that's why the content team decided a while ago to change the rule of procedures to make them more adaptable for the new participants. So it was their job, including the person that was really helpful to MEU Yash was Andrea Sherban. She was doing a great job gathering experts, participants that were really, they had a really good experience in MEU. And we tried to make it easier for the beginners to understand what is happening in real life. Regarding this year debate, we tried to make it a little bit more comfortable, being that we try to be more fun, to give the fun in the debate. It was always someone giving a joke or someone doing something to make the participants comfortable. So that's what I think it's very important, to make them feel that it's okay to speak up. It's fine if they make mistakes, but they should be encouraged to do that. And of course, what was really funny to do in this year MEU Yash, because we had to cut off all the social activities, we had a lot of wine from the social nights. So we decided, the organizing team decided to do a wine break instead of coffee breaks. And we did a lot of wine breaks to encourage the spirits of the participant. And it was really funny. I could tell you that you can debate very well when you're a little bit on the wine break.
I can confirm that the wine break was there and it was fun to have it, but I strongly would not recommend it for the working time. So I see someone with the raised hand, but I also have another question from the participants. So we will have these two questions for the end of our debate, and we will move to conclusions and to main takeaways. And Anis, I would take the question from the chat first, and then you can also raise the question and you ask the question yourself. So my guest, if you can, I will read to you the question. How would you include journalists and lobbyists in the future online MEU? And I will continue with this. What institution did work, what institution did not work, and do you think the presence of the lobbyists might be obsolete, or it's even better to have private channels where they can talk with the MEPs or with the ministers from MEUs? So I guess I will start with Velyiana.
So we did have journalists and we did have lobbyists. Our journalists made something like MEU Blagoevgrad newspaper, and they made articles every single day, and they gathered it in one newspaper and sent it to the participants at the end. And we of course had gossip box as always. It was definitely fun for the participants to have a gossip box while we are online. We also had lobbyists, and because we didn't have breaks, I mean we had breaks, but we didn't have like coffee breaks in which people can meet like in person. They cannot have lunch together and so on. No social night as usual. Our lobbyists had more chance to participate in our debates. For example, we were calling them twice a day in the council, so they can say what they want to say, and they were also joining through Messenger, texting the ministers. So it was like that. And I suppose it's not as engaging for the lobbyists because sometimes they don't have something to do for like a few hours a day, let's say. But if a lobbyist wants, they can push their agenda as much as possible through Messenger or some app like that.
And I missed part of the questions. Did you have interprets?
What is
Velyiana, yeah. Did
what
you have...
is
Sorry, go.
what is interpret?
The interprets provides interpretation, which is a sort of translation of what the interpreter, sorry, of what the MEP is saying, or the minister.
No, everybody was speaking in English. We just had the president of the European Commission
Okay.
who was clarifying the topic.
Okay, thank you very much. Please keep in mind, dear speakers, that when you answer this, tell us if you had or no, if you did not have interpreters. So I will give the floor to Finlay.
In terms of which institutions work in an online MEU, it's very much the same as an in-person one. With the right people, the right creativity, and any kind of workaround that you may have, you can do just about any kind of institution, any kind of setup that you want, as long as you kind of work through it as well. The great thing here is that we're working on a blank slate for online MEUs, and quite happily work from that. Kind of answers the second question of which institutions are not suitable. And for MEU Scotland this year, we did not have lobbyists, nor did we have interpreters or journalists. We kept it to commissioners and chairpersons. This is purely just, we wanted to streamline our own kind of MEU, make sure we weren't juggling too many balls so that we could catch the ones that we had. Personally, I think that lobbyists across the board, I'm not going to call out anyone here with no malice towards anyone. Lobbyists in content teams are underutilized in the traditional MEU format. I think first we have to figure out their exact role and how they play in the dynamics of an MEU, whether from a social perspective or from the content perspective. And I think that once we've found a kind of firm standard for that, we can then translate it to other parts of the MEU. I think we're still working on the basics of our kind of lobbyists and our interpreters as well. There are some barriers for lobbyists online. There's a lot more kind of pressure on them to go and interact with people, to take the initiative. In the council for us, we made sure that our commissioners and our legal service were actively involved in everything. I believe our legal service went and made contact with every participant that we had, made sure that they had any questions, asked them, not demanded, but very, very much encouraged them to let the legal service see their amendments that they were working on, and then gave them advice from that. And the amendments we got as a kind of result of that were of very high quality. And in the kind of frame of realism, however you want to define that, I'd understand it was very realistic. And our commissioners were also doing that kind of same process, talking to participants in the kind of breakout rooms that we had when we had an unmoderated discussion.
Thank you very much, Finlay. Unfortunately, we will run out of time soon and our session will expire, and I want to give the floor to the rest of the speakers, if that's fine with you. to answer this question and then to quickly move to the conclusions. So Yogam, can you tell us a little bit about the institutions, how what institution work or which did not?
Okay, for the online simulation that we've done, I would definitely agree with what Finlay mentioned. Any institution would work, and for us, we did Parliament and Council. Both did actually work really well. And the thing with what you mentioned about interpreters and lobbyists and journalists, we did not have all three because honestly, this online simulation is a new game for us. We didn't want to overload ourselves as well as participants with this. We don't really know the platform entirely. We also don't have the funding to make sure that we can have all features. But I do understand that Zoom, for example, has this interpretation option, but we did not want to tread into a sphere without actually knowing enough about it. So that was the reason why we didn't have all three roles, basically.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll move now to Lucia to tell us a little bit about the institutions and whether or not you had interpreters.
So we had the Parliament Council and journalists, and that was the plan for the beginning, especially because this is our first time organizing MEU, and none of the organizing team members had much experience organizing MEUs, so we didn't want to overwhelm ourselves. And I would say like all of the institutions worked. We could have done more to sort of incorporate journalists or make some extra workshop or program for them, which we plan to during face-to-face MEU. But it depends also like on the people attending, because like sometimes it happens you have very active people for important positions like Minister of Germany or something like that. And we have to say that our journalists were very proactive. They even took matters into their own hands. So I would say the participants get as much out of the project as they give into it. So even though the organizers may struggle a bit, it depends also on the participants, like how proactive they are.
Thank you very much, Lucia. And now I'm going to Bianca. I know you had interpreters. How did it work? Very quickly, please.
Yes, it was really engaging because it set another mood for the debate, made people a lot more comfortable to talk in their own language. We had Spanish, I guess, in Spanish, Portuguese, and other languages I can remember right now, but it was a lot more engaging and a little bit more fun.
Indeed, it was very fun and listening to everyone speaking in their mother tongue. Unfortunately, we do not have time to take another question, but I will invite the speakers to say the final remarks and the main takeaways that we can use after this this panel. And we can start with Bianca, of course.
From what you heard, I cannot tell you anything about online organizing of MEU because my colleagues here just spoke and gave me a lot of new ideas. If you're considering to organize MEU in physical way, what I can say is just please be very careful and be up to date to every measure that your country is taking during this pandemic. Please do everything that you can do with sanitary measures, and please have a plan B. Anytime you can have the two plans to do it physically and online. And what I'm trying to say is we right now at MEU Yash, we're having a call for the organizing team that is going to take place in March 2021. We are not sure if we are going to do physically or online, but with this exchange of best practices, we are having so many good ideas from all the speakers. So I'm just wanted to thank you for all the ideas and great job.
Thank you very much, Bianca. Velyiana, 1 minute for the conclusions.
Okay, first, thank you for having me. I myself learned a lot of things for our next online MEU, and I hope to see a lot of you on our online MEU or maybe our on-ground MEU, which is going to be at the end of next year. So thank you so much for having me, and I think we did a great job. I myself learned a lot of things, so hope to see you soon.
Thank you very much. Yogam, you have the floor now for the conclusions.
Thank you very much. So I would say that I am not sure if this is considered lucky, but I was in one of the simulations right as the pandemic MEU Vienna, right as it hit Austria itself. So I saw how organizers decided to take charge of the situation then and there, and they did a really, really good job. So I applaud them. Unfortunately, I could not be in Yash, but I also had the pleasure of being in 3 out of 4 of the online simulations. So I got to see that this is how the things would be for at this point in time. And today we could also talk a little bit more about it. So that was really nice. And I hope that we can have more discussions like this out of this panel and take it forward so that we can help every MEU network at this point in time.
Thank you very much. Lucia, you have the floor now.
So I would just want to say that online MEUs are certainly different, but they shouldn't be seen as a drawback. I would say they should be seen as an opportunity to get more innovative, to get into the sphere of e-learning. And even if it means reconceptualizing the project a bit, I think it's totally fine. And as I said, it's an opportunity. Like we want to expand on the webinars part of the simulation and sort of expand into the sphere of doing an online academy preceding the very simulation. So I would say that, yeah, it should be seen as an opportunity.
Finlay, you're the one to end the speakers list.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Personally, I can speak about content, whether for an online or in-person MEU, for hours. So if you have any questions about doing an online MEU in the future, please don't hesitate to contact me. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, most places. And yeah, also keep your eye out for MEU Scotland. We're going to be doing a few very cool things very soon. So just keep your eyes out. And thank you to the Beta Europe think tank for inviting us all along and letting us speak.
Thank you to everyone for bearing with us until now. I know we can prolong this discussion for hours because we have so many things to tell each other. And I want to share to you my personal takeaways before we end up and we say goodbye. That MEUs online or in times of pandemic, they also have advantages and disadvantages. We must focus also on the health, on the mental health of our teams and of our participants. We might face difficulties in some parts, but we might face some advantages in other parts, like we are facing less financial struggle, for example. So I'm pretty sure that our guests this afternoon will answer to your questions further on if you will contact them on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. Go look for them, and I'm pretty sure they will be more than happy to collaborate with you to establish new partnerships. So thank you very much, everyone, for staying today with us. Apparently, we're still online. This is very good. And have a good afternoon and enjoy the rest of MEU Symposium.